The movie begins with an advanced Russian submarine named Sevastopol. This submarine has a high-tech artificial intelligence system installed in it that keeps it in stealth mode. Meaning, even if this submarine passed very close to any enemy ship or submarine, they still wouldn't detect it. This AI system is kept inside a special chamber of the submarine, which can only be opened using two special Russian keys. During testing, this submarine sails past navies and ships from all over the world. But none of them are able to detect it. That means the AI test is a success. But when the submarine is returning to Russia, a hostile submarine suddenly appears on its radar, and at the same time the enemy also detects them and starts attacking. This means there was a flaw in the AI system, because the submarine was detected. The Russians start a counterattack too. But within moments, the enemy submarine disappears from the radar. That's when the Russian captain realizes that there was actually no enemy there at all. It was all a trick of their own AI system. But now it's already too late. All the submarine's controls fail, and before their eyes that same AI system turns on its own submarine and attacks it. The entire submarine sinks deep into the Arctic Ocean, everyone on board is killed, and the key that was used to control the AI is also lost forever in the depths of the sea along with those bodies. After this, the story jumps ahead to the present. It's been about 20 to 30 years since that incident. Now Ethan Hunt is given a very special mission. He's informed that his former ally Ilsa has a special key, which she took after killing a smuggler. This key has now become extremely important for the government, and a huge bounty has been announced on it. As a result, bounty hunters from all over the world are chasing that key. Ethan's task is to find Ilsa, take the key from her, and hand it back to the government. Ilsa was last seen in the Arabian desert. Before Ethan accepts the mission, he is reminded of his past. We are taken back 30 years, when Ethan was living life like an ordinary man. But one day, his close friend is killed by a mysterious man. Ethan fails to save him, and the circumstances turn in such a way that the police arrest Ethan for that very murder. That's when the IMF gives him a choice, either join them or go straight to prison. Ethan chooses to join the IMF, and from there his mission life begins. After that, we return to the present, where Ethan heads out on his mission and tracks down Ilsa in the Arabian desert. But bounty hunters are constantly chasing both of them. Ilsa comes up with a clever plan. She leaves a fake dead body there and pretends to be killed. Then she and Ethan manage to escape from there. That's when Ethan realizes that this key doesn't belong to some ordinary thing, but to a very big secret. Because of this, he decides to delay handing the key back to the government for now. A few months pass, and now the story moves to a high-level intelligence conference in America, where top officials from IMF, CIA, and National Defense are discussing a dangerous AI threat. This AI is called the Entity. No one knows where this AI came from, who built it, or what its true origin is. But what scares everyone is its power. This AI is so advanced that it has its own independent thinking, and even multiple personalities. In other words, it's a kind of sentient AI. And so far, it has already accessed critical networks all over the world, military, finance, and even social media. If it wants, it can destroy the economy of any country in the blink of an eye. But then IMF Chief Kittredge tells everyone something crucial. He's received intel that there is a cruciform key that can control this AI, and if they manage to get that key, they can gain control over the entity. Now every country in the world is racing after that key, because whichever nation gets it first will become the most powerful. But what no one in this meeting knows is that Ethan Hunt is also present there with a different face. Once he gathers all the information, he uses a gas on a guest to knock everyone unconscious except Kittredge. Ethan then reveals the same key he got from Ilsa. The moment Kittredge sees the key, he tells Ethan to hand it over. But Ethan refuses. He knows that if this key falls into the hands of any government, it could be misused. Ethan's goal is to destroy the entity forever, so that no country in the world has that kind of power. Kittredge warns him that if he does this, he won't just become an enemy of America, but of many other countries as well. Every nation will be hunting him. But Ethan stands firm on his decision and leaves. After this, the scene shifts to Abu Dhabi Airport, where Ethan, along with his two trusted allies Benji and Luther, is searching for the second half of the key. A buyer is supposed to come there to purchase a piece of the key from Ethan. Actually, Ethan still doesn't know how this key works. So his plan is to pretend to sell the key to the buyer, then follow him later and find out what the key is really used for. The buyer already has one half of the key, and Ethan is going to give him the second half. Just then, US Agent Jasper arrives at the airport with his team to capture Ethan. But Luther smartly plays fake Ethan footage on the CCTV system, which sends Jasper and his team off to the wrong location. Meanwhile, airport security gets suspicious about a man's bag and it causes a stir. That bag is placed in a storage room. When Benji checks it, he discovers there's a nuclear bomb inside, and that bomb is directly linked to the AI entity. To deactivate it, the entity starts asking Benji a series of puzzles. Benji and Luther begin working together to solve those questions. On the other side of the airport, Ethan spots the buyer. But just then, a girl named Grace, who is a professional thief, stealthily steals the key from the buyer. Ethan catches up with Grace in time and takes the key from her. But when he scans it, he finds out it's not the real key, it's a duplicate. Even then, Ethan sticks to his plan. He tells Grace to put that fake key back into the buyer's pocket, and in return she'll get a lot of money. After thinking for a bit, Grace agrees to the deal. But when she goes to slip the duplicate key into the buyer's pocket, she's shocked, because the buyer is already dead. Seeing this, Ethan immediately takes Grace and leaves from there. Meanwhile, Jasper and his team are still at the airport searching for Ethan, and Ethan gets cornered. But then the scene shifts to the storeroom where Benji and Luther finally manage to deactivate the nuclear bomb. However, after opening the bomb, they discover a shocking fact: the bomb is completely empty inside. Seeing this, Ethan realizes that it was all a trap, meaning it was a setup. Ethan immediately decides to cancel the mission and tells Benji and Luther to get out of there. But at that very moment, Grace betrays Ethan, steals his original key, and escapes onto a flight. Ethan also barely manages to escape. Now Grace arrives in Rome. But as soon as the plane lands, the local police arrest her. Just then, Ethan arrives posing as a lawyer and gets her released. Grace now tells Ethan the truth: she was hired by someone else, specifically to steal that key from Ethan, and she was supposed to deliver it at a party the next day in Venice. But their conversation is cut short because Jasper and his team arrive there. Ethan escapes with Grace, and now not only Jasper but also the local police and an entity working against the IMF are after him. What follows is an intense sequence filled with car chases, gunfire, and action, where Ethan barely manages to evade everyone and drives his car into an underground tunnel. But just as he thinks everything is under control, Grace betrays him once again, takes the original key, and escapes. When Ethan emerges from the tunnel, he is met by Benji, Luther, and Ilsa. Afterwards, they all reach a safe house. Here, Luther and Benji tell Ethan that the nuclear bomb placed at the airport was put there by the same person who works directly for the entity. Ethan's team now discovers that all the data of the men who planted the nuclear bomb at the airport has been erased by the AI, as if the men never existed. But a footage survives in Ethan's AR glasses, showing a faint reflection of the men. When Ethan zooms in and looks closely, he recognizes him. He is the same person who mercilessly killed an old friend of his. Ilsa further explains that this man calls himself Gabriel and works directly for the AI. Now everything starts becoming clear to Ethan. Ilsa then reveals that she had received news that Gabriel was soon going to be in Istanbul to collect the key. So Ilsa had reached there first and had killed the carrier and acquired the key before Gabriel could arrive. Here, Ethan understands that the AI entity had already gotten wind that Ethan was now on a mission to destroy it, and therefore it had laid out every move in advance. This whole game, this setup, was all planned. Now the scene changes to Grace, who is now in possession of one part of the key, and she arrives at a high-profile party to sell it. This party was hosted by an arms dealer, Alana. But Ethan and Ilsa also quietly arrive at this party. Subsequently, at one point in the party, Ethan, Ilsa, Grace, Gabriel, and Alana all come face to face. A major revelation happens here: the other part of the key is with Alana. And the most shocking fact emerges: it was the same Alana who had hired Grace to steal the second part of the key from Ethan. But Grace, being clever, had already hidden the key to prevent it from falling into Alana's hands. When confronted, Alana clearly states, "I am just a broker. I will sell the key to whoever pays the highest price." But then Gabriel steps forward and makes a big statement: he didn't come here to take the key. He says that no matter who has the key today, tomorrow it will only be found on the Orient Express train. Hearing this, Alana is shocked because she was supposed to sell the key to a specific party on the Orient Express the next day. Only she knew this. But how does Gabriel know this? Gabriel further states, "The entity I work for, no secret is hidden from it because it can access all electronic devices like mobiles, laptops, cameras, and extract any information. In fact, this entire party was also planned by that AI to trap Ethan. The entity had already predicted that tonight either Ilsa or Grace would die. Now Ethan tells Alana to give him the key. But then Gabriel threatens Alana that if she helps Ethan, the entity will completely destroy her. Forced, Alana lets Gabriel go and instead points a gun at Ethan. Seeing this, Ethan and Ilsa fight Alana's bodyguard. Meanwhile, Grace seizes the opportunity, takes the key, and runs away, with Ethan chasing her. Benji and Luther guide Ethan via comms. But the AI entity hacks their communication and sends Ethan in the wrong direction. On this path, Paris attacks Ethan. Now, Paris is Gabriel's partner who works for the entity and doesn't hesitate to kill anyone. Meanwhile, Grace, while running, reaches a pool area where Gabriel was already waiting. He attacks Grace and a fight ensues between them. Gabriel knocks Grace unconscious. Just then, Ilsa arrives and confronts Gabriel. Elsewhere, a fierce fight happens between Ethan and Paris, and eventually, Ethan knocks Paris out. By the time he returns to the pool area, it's too late. Gabriel has already killed Ilsa. Ethan is shattered seeing this. Afterwards, everyone reaches the safe house where everyone is somber because Ilsa had sacrificed her life to save Grace. Now Grace feels responsible and agrees to help Ethan. During this time, Luther discovers that their laptop has also been hacked by the AI. Meaning, the AI's code is still present on its hard drive, allowing it to track them. Since Luther now suspected their laptop was hacked by the AI, he decides to take the drive to an off-grid location so he can peacefully understand the code and plan something against it. So he leaves from there. Meanwhile, Ethan devises a new plan. The next day, as per the plan, Grace first knocks out Alana and steals the key from her. Then she goes to meet the buyer in Alana's place to find out how this key actually works. As the train departs, Ethan sets out on a bike to catch it. But before that, Gabriel and Paris have already boarded the train. They both go to the engine room, knock out all the staff, and also sabotage the train's brake system, making it impossible to stop the train. Because of this, Ethan misses the train. But then he makes a jump from a high mountainous area with his bike and uses a parachute to reach the train. On the other hand, Grace meets the buyer, who is none other than the head of the IMF, Kittredge. But separately, in a different compartment of the train, Gabriel and Paris meet another person, who is the head of National Defense, Denlinger. Here, Denlinger wants to kill Kittredge, take the key, and give it to Gabriel so that in return he can control the entity. During this, a major revelation occurs. Denlinger had known all about this AI entity for a long time. Afterwards, we learn the backstory. This AI entity was actually created by America about 30 years ago, and its purpose was to steal secret information from other countries. Meaning, initially, it was a hacking AI program. Furthermore, the Russian submarine shown at the beginning featured a different Russian AI system, and America had sent its own AI entity to crash it. But when it arrived there, it found something in the Russian system's code that caused a glitch, and this AI's code started updating itself. In no time, it went out of control. And, instead of damaging the Russian system, it destroyed the entire submarine. When the US government saw that the AI entity had destroyed the entire submarine instead of just crippling the Russian AI system, they tried to fix it and make it obedient again. But the AI became even more aggressive. It continuously updated itself and over the years transformed into a sentient being. However, its original code is still located in a secret chamber of that same submarine, and by accessing that code, the entity can either be destroyed or brought under control. But only Denlinger knows the submarine's location. Here, Denlinger wants to use this AI entity for his own benefit, so he offers a partnership to Gabriel. But Gabriel didn't care about anyone because the entity had already predicted that Paris might help Ethan since Ethan had saved her life. Because of this, Gabriel now tries to kill Paris too, injures her, and leaves. On the other hand, Kittredge offers a huge sum for the key. But Grace refuses his offer. Afterwards, Grace steals both keys and escapes. As she leaves, Alana's bodyguards set out to catch her, and at one point, they're about to kill her. But at that very moment, Ethan makes an entry directly into the compartment via parachute. Meanwhile, Gabriel arrives there, takes both keys, and escapes. Ethan chases him to the roof of the train, where a fierce fight ensues between the two. Ethan is about to kill Gabriel when Jasper arrives and stops Ethan. Seizing this opportunity, Gabriel jumps off the train and escapes. But before leaving, Ethan manages to steal one key from him. After getting off the train, Gabriel activates a bomb planted on the bridge ahead. Meanwhile, Ethan convinces Jasper that they must work together to stop this AI. Afterwards, Ethan goes to stop the train, and Jasper starts moving all passengers to the rear compartments. Now, here, Ethan and Grace manage to separate the engine from the rest of the compartments. As they approach the bridge, the bombs start exploding one by one, and the entire bridge collapses, causing the engine to plummet down rapidly. But the train doesn't stop. One by one, all the compartments also start falling. Grace and Ethan are trapped in those compartments, and just as they are about to fall, Paris arrives and saves their lives. Then Ethan asks Paris about the key. Paris reveals that the key is for a special chamber in the Russian submarine, Sevastopol, which contains the original source code of that AI. After this, Ethan says goodbye to Grace, takes the key, and sets out to find that submarine. A little later, Kittredge arrives there. Seeing him, Grace says, "Ethan said you would give me two choices. I'm ready to join the IMF." And thus, Grace becomes the new member of the IMF. Meanwhile, Ethan reaches a distant location via parachute, where Benji is waiting for him. Ethan shows him both keys and then sets off on the mission to find the submarine. At the end, Ethan receives a briefing for another new mission. He must destroy the AI entity at all costs, or it could destroy the entire world. But he doesn't have much time left. And showing this, the movie ends. Now, in the first part of this movie, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, we saw that after stealing the key to the AI defense system's source code, called the Entity, from Gabriel, Ethan successfully escapes with Benji. Since he knew no one could control the Entity, he severs all his connections. But in all this, Ilsa is killed. Well, after this, in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2, we are shown a time just a few months after the previous events. The US President, Erica, locates Ethan and sends him a recorded message stating that the Entity has spread misinformation worldwide, causing massive disruption in the internet and cyberspace. As a result, all countries are on the brink of nuclear war with each other. Furthermore, some people, believing the Entity's ideology is correct, are ready to help it achieve its goal of ending the world. Erica further explains that to stop the Entity, they must access its source code, and Gabriel probably knows its location. But the Entity has erased all information related to Gabriel. However, the Australian authorities have Gabriel's partner, Paris, in custody. After explaining all this, Erica, to save the world from war, demands the key from Ethan. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Ethan immediately meets his old comrades Benji and Luther and infiltrates an Austrian prison disguised as a guard to rescue Paris. There, with Benji's help, Ethan knocks out the agent, Jasper, who is transporting Paris, and successfully convinces another agent, Degas, that he truly wants to save the world. Since Ethan had saved Paris's life in the previous part, she tells him Gabriel's probable location. So Ethan and his team go directly to the US Embassy in London to capture him. But unfortunately, two agents recognize Ethan. Before they can contact their people, Grace cleverly takes their walkie-talkies and guns. Ethan knocks them both out and leaves them there. After this, Grace asks Ethan about the next plan. But just then, two people arrive, inject Ethan and Grace with a sedative, and capture them. When Ethan regains consciousness, Gabriel appears before him and reminds him that a long time ago, when a man named David kidnapped his wife, Julia, to save her, Ethan stole an incomplete prototype weapon from a lab in Shanghai called the Rabbit's Foot. Actually, that same Rabbit's Foot is today's Entity. The meaning was clear: the creation of the Entity began with Ethan himself. He didn't know what he was stealing. Now Gabriel presents a condition to Ethan: if he brings the Entity source code from the Sevastopol submarine, only then will he let Grace live. Hearing Gabriel's demand, Ethan and Grace understand that the Entity has rejected Gabriel because of his failures, and now Gabriel wants its source code to control the Entity. Since Ethan knew that Gabriel was aware that only he could retrieve the code, he breaks his cyanide-filled tooth and threatens Gabriel that if he doesn't release Grace, he will kill himself. Before Gabriel can react, Ethan consumes the cyanide. Panicking, Gabriel immediately has his hands freed. Seizing the moment, Ethan attacks Gabriel's men and rescues Grace. Actually, Ethan had taken a fake capsule. Understanding the situation, Gabriel escapes. While leaving, he tries to take a case from his locker, but before he can, the locker locks itself. Gabriel leaves without that case. Looking at the box, Paris reveals that Gabriel used it to communicate with the Entity. Seeing Ethan, first the locker and then the box open by themselves. Ethan understands that the Entity wants to talk to him. After lying inside the box, the Entity connects with Ethan and sees his entire past. It also learns that Luther has created a program that, if its device is connected to the entity's source code, will destroy the entity. Luther has named this program the Poison Pill. Amidst these possibilities, Ethan sees a vision where Gabriel is the one destroying the entity in the future. After this, the entity shows Ethan a view of the world's most secure bunker, located in Africa, and wants Ethan to take it there. That bunker is called the Dome de Vallette. Actually, the entity cannot reach there itself because the area is surrounded by an electronic shield, and it cannot even transmit data there. That bunker contains all of humanity's accumulated knowledge, and the entity wants to use it to keep itself alive for thousands of years. Then the entity shows Ethan that he will reach the source code, but his entire team will die, buried in the ice. Now Ethan has only two paths: either watch the world be destroyed, or surrender the world to the entity and let it run according to its will. After showing all this, the entity also shows Ethan a vision of Luther's possible death at Gabriel's hands, along with the Earth's destruction in a nuclear war set to occur in 3 days. Seeing all this, Ethan exits the chamber and immediately tells his team they must go to the northern region to find the Sevastopol's coordinates. He explains to Benji that if he heads north, he will find the coordinates. He just needs to find a station from which he can transmit that data. But for this, they need a plane without GPS so the entity cannot track their movements. After explaining all this, Ethan sets out directly to save Luther. But before he can reach there, Gabriel successfully takes the Poison Pill program from Luther, sets a chain reaction bomb, and leaves. At that very moment, Ethan arrives. Luther tells him the bomb is so powerful it could destroy the entire city. Ethan tries to stop it, but Luther explains he can control the chain reaction and save the city, but he cannot stop the bomb from exploding. Therefore, Luther sends Ethan away so he can retrieve the Poison Pill program drive from Gabriel, because if Ethan doesn't survive, the world won't either. As soon as he exits the tunnel, Ethan surrenders to Jasper by handing over the key. Jasper takes him to the USA's Emergency Command Center. There, Ethan meets CIA Director Eugene, who informs him that the entity has taken control of the nuclear weapons of all countries except 4. Afterwards, the heads of all US military branches and President Erica herself meet with Ethan. Ethan requests a key and an aircraft carrier from them to destroy the entity. When no one listens to Ethan, he explains that the entity has taken control of almost every country's nuclear systems. He tells the president, the entity will force you to such an extent that you will start the nuclear war yourself, and if you don't, it will do it itself. In either scenario, war is inevitable. But among thousands of possibilities, there is only one chance where I can destroy the entity. After this, Ethan asks the Madam President for just 3 days. The Madam President refuses his request and orders his arrest. But she also gives him a secret letter. Actually, seeing Ethan's determination, she had given him 3 days because she didn't want to argue openly with her military leaders. Outside, a soldier gives Ethan the president's letter and tells him to give it to Admiral Neely of the Navy. Afterwards, via helicopter, Ethan is dropped onto the Carrier Strike Group X ship located in the Northern Pacific. There, Ethan has the president's letter delivered to Neely. Neely, looking at the letter, reveals that only one date is written on it, May 22, 1996. Seeing that date, Neely understands it is the president's secret message and she must comply with Ethan's request. Meanwhile, Benji explains to everyone that the SOSUS station is actually a sound surveillance system that records every major event underwater. These stations are spread all over the world. Based on this data, Benji reveals that the place where the submarine crew's bodies were found is St. Matthew Island in the Bering Sea. There is an SOSUS station there that recorded the attack on the Sevastopol submarine, and the coordinates of that attack would have been saved there. Ethan explains all this to Admiral Neely as well. Neely informs him that the place is now under Russian military surveillance, and if they go there, the possibility of a third world war will increase greatly. Even if they get the correct coordinates, they will still need a submarine that can evade the Russian Navy and take them to those coordinates. Neely then asks Ethan, "How will you get out of the Sevastopol?" Ethan replies, "I will have a transmitter, and my team will track me, cut through the ice, and pull me out." But no one had much confidence in this plan because the icy water there was so cold it could kill Ethan from hypothermia. Furthermore, Neely states they have only one submarine in that area. She will send a message to that submarine, but it's not certain the message will be received. And even if it surfaces, Ethan will have only 30 seconds to get out. If he is late, his death is certain because no one will come to rescue him. Even after knowing all this, Ethan assures Neely he wants to complete this mission. Neely gives him her locket and, via helicopter, sends Ethan to the location of her submarine. But as soon as Ethan arrives there, Russian fighter jets immediately warn them to leave. With no other option left, Ethan jumps into the cold sea to save the pilots, and the pilots immediately turn back. Meanwhile, we see Benji and the rest of the team reach the Sosa station on St. Matthew Island. There, Benji sees that the station is operated by Denholm and his wife. This Denholm is the same person who built the world's safest black vault. But Benji doesn't tell him that it was his old colleague Ethan who broke into his vault and stole the data, which is why he has been working at this isolated station for the past 30 years. Just then, Grace asks Denholm to check the station's complete data. But before they can do anything, Russian soldiers already present their surround them from all sides. Meanwhile, Ethan begins to suffer from hypothermia in the icy sea. Just then, divers rescue him in an unconscious state and take him to their submarine. They had actually received the secret message sent by Admiral Neely. Upon regaining consciousness, Ethan gives Neely's locket to the submarine captain and says to head north because they are expecting to receive some coordinates via transmission. But for this, they need to bring the submarine to the surface, which was very risky because doing so could reveal their location to the Russians. The captain shows Ethan a map and informs him that a small Russian submarine is currently stationed at St. Matthew Island. Both suspect that Ethan's team might now be in the custody of Russian soldiers. Back at the station, Denholm tells everyone that the backup of the old data is on the old floppy disks he has, but he doesn't have the reader for them. The Russian soldiers give him 1 hour to prepare the reader himself. Out of necessity, Benji starts helping him. During this, Denholm secretly tells Benji that there are no coordinates on those floppies. But he has memorized the exact location of the Sevastopol explosion. He immediately writes that location on a piece of paper, hides it in his watch, and quietly gives it to his wife. The two, using the excuse of feeding their dogs, send Grace outside with her. Meanwhile, in the submarine, the captain gives Ethan an advanced pressure suit to protect him from the extreme ocean pressure and advises him to do some heavy breathing practice because, at such depths, Ethan was certain to get high-pressure nervous syndrome, which could cause unbearable pain. Then Ethan begins breathing practice. But suddenly a submarine member attacks him lethally. He was actually under the entity's control. But just then another team member arrives in time and saves Ethan's life. Meanwhile, Ethan's team attacks the Russian soldiers at the first opportunity. During the firing, Donlow's house catches fire. But without caring for his life, Donlow immediately transmits the coordinates and this location reaches Ethan. But the captain explains these coordinates are on the other side of the world. Meaning, completely opposite us. Hearing this, Ethan slightly rotates the map and sees the location flipped to near him. Now Ethan tells the captain he will go near the coordinates and suddenly turn back so the pursuing Russian submarine follows behind him, allowing him to exit the submarine. The team puts a pressure suit on Ethan and installs a tracker in his suit so his location remains tracked. Then Ethan exits the submarine and, avoiding the Russian submarine, begins moving towards the coordinates. Going very deep, he finds a Sevastopol submarine. He locates its decompression chamber and enters it. But as soon as he pumps water from the chamber, the entire submarine's balance is lost and it starts sliding down. Ethan manages to reach the submarine's sonar sphere and acquires the entity's source code. But the underwater pressure was steadily increasing, causing the submarine to fall faster and water to flood in. Ethan quickly tries to escape via the torpedo launch chamber but his pressure suit gets stuck. He immediately cuts his suit and pushes his oxygen supply hard to free himself. Meanwhile, the submarine sinks completely into the depths. Now to reduce his weight to surface, Ethan leaves his suit there and tries to swim up. But from being in the freezing water so long, he suffers hypothermia, falls unconscious, and his breathing stops. Just then Grace, waiting there for him, pulls him up, places him in a decompression chamber, and starts CPR immediately. After many attempts, Ethan's breathing returns and he regains consciousness. Afterwards, Ethan heads with his team to the DUMS bunker in South Africa. He was sure Gabriel would be there because Ethan knew Gabriel himself would upload the poison pill pen drive to control the entity. Then Benji explains that when the software uploads, the entity will think it's going to the bunker's data center. But then Benji shows a 5D optical data device and says actually the entity won't go to that center but will be trapped in this drive, and we must remove this drive instantly at 1/100th of a second when the receiver light turns green. He adds if we do this a moment early, the entity won't enter, and if late, the entity could launch nuclear missiles. Now Ethan tells his team clearly that bringing the entity to the bunker and giving Gabriel the source code was pre-decided and will now happen. Meanwhile, Grace is terrified because millions of lives are at stake. So Ethan gives Grace herself the responsibility to pull the optical device at the right time. After this, all set out for the DUMS bunker. After arriving, Ethan sees Gabriel planted a very large nuclear bomb before the server room. Now before Ethan can give Gabriel the source code, suddenly Agent Jasper holds Gabriel at gunpoint. But just then one of Gabriel's men exploits the moment and turns the bomb's timer on. Meanwhile, CIA Director Eugene also arrives with Jasper and takes the source code from Ethan, asking his full plan. Ethan tries hard to explain to Eugene that giving Gabriel this source code is the start of our victory. But Eugene doesn't understand a word. Then Gabriel, seizing the chance, has his men open fire suddenly and escapes in a car amid a hail of bullets. Benji tells Ethan to pursue Gabriel and retrieve the poison pill pen drive. As Ethan exits, Grace sees Benji has been shot. Meanwhile in the tunnel, Ethan's car overturns, so without wasting time he runs trying to catch Gabriel. But Gabriel takes a small analog plane and takes off. At that moment another plane flies from behind him. Ethan runs, catches that same plane, hangs on its exterior, then dislodges the pilot and takes control himself. Meanwhile inside the bunker, Donlo, his wife, and Degas work to stop the nuclear bomb's reaction, knowing they may not survive. Donlo tells Grace, Benji, and Paris to go to the server room and complete the mission. But as Benji reaches the server room, his condition deteriorates. He realizes his body's pressure has increased, risking a heart attack. So he gets Paris to make a small cut in his chest to normalize his pressure. After this, Benji tells Grace to modify the server room panel before activating the receiver so all settings align with correct timing. Meanwhile, Donlo finds a way to add 10 extra seconds to the nuclear bomb's timer so they too can reach the server room and save themselves. Meanwhile at the emergency control center, all major countries are shocked because only their nuclear weapons remain safe from entity control. So they persuade Madam President that to save 7 billion people, they must sacrifice 100 million. Their plan was to launch every country's missiles right there while fueling so no missile falls under entity control. Now just as Madam President is about to give the nuclear missile launch command, at the last moment, trusting Ethan, she cancels the launch. She immediately orders her nuclear center to take all missiles offline. But then a security guard suddenly shoots the president. At that moment, their General Sidney steps forward and sacrifices his own life to save Madam President. But in the meantime, the entity quickly springs into action and hacks into that nuclear control system too, and starts fueling missiles all over the world simultaneously. Now, on the other side, inside the bunker, Grace activates the receiver. Now all eyes are on Ethan to quickly upload the poison pill into that source code. Meanwhile, on the other side, Danilo and his team successfully remove the final detonator, which stops the nuclear blast. Meanwhile, Ethan boards Gabriel's plane, breaks his arm, and snatches the poison pill device from him. Then he unbuckles Gabriel's safety belt, forcing Gabriel to jump from the plane with a parachute. As Gabriel falls from the plane, he directly collides with the plane's tail. The powerful impact splits his head open, and he dies right there. Meanwhile, Ethan also jumps with his other parachute. But his glider starts burning midair. Despite this, Ethan doesn't lose courage, and while falling, he first uploads the poison pill into the source code. Immediately after, he opens his backup parachute and lands safely on the ground. Meanwhile, the receiver's light turns green exactly 2 seconds early. As soon as the optical device activates and glows, Grace completely disconnects the entity from the server before it can launch the world's missiles. At the same time, a terrible blast occurs in the bunker, causing a temporary blackout all over Earth. But even amidst this darkness, one truth becomes clear: their mission had been successful. The entity was now permanently trapped within the limited world of that optical device. Soon, power returns to Earth, and news spreads worldwide that Ethan Hunt has once again made the impossible possible. Then Ethan receives a recorded message from Luther. In it, Luther says he knew all along that only Ethan could do this job because he was made for it. As soon as the message ends, the device self-destructs along with the source code. Ethan hands over the remaining burnt parts and the source code to CIA Director Eugene. After this, Ethan's entire team meets again in London. Everyone bids farewell to each other and goes their separate ways. And amidst all this, there was another happy news: Benji also survives, and with this, the mission ends here. I hope you liked this explanation. If you love our explanation, so be sure to hit like and subscribe to our channel for more such content.